Welcome to the Ultimate Breakdown. Today I'll be breaking down my list of the top 10 Smash Ultimate players of all time. This list is an all-time list, so I'll be factoring in the entire history of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, spanning from the beginning of competitive tournaments in late 2018 until present day. Just as a time frame reference, as of the recording of this video, the last major tournament was Crown III. I'll also be referring to the competitive lifespan of the game on a roughly 3-year basis. This will include the start of 2019 up until Frostbite 2020, and then from August 2021 until the present. So roughly 3 years of offline relevant competitive play. And just as a fair warning, there will be mentioning of some players who are currently banned in some parts, if not across all of the Smash community. I ask that you keep in mind that I will only be touching on these players' professional careers. In no way does this list factor in popularity or my own personal favorite players. I solely try and use data and the weight of tournaments to back up my claims, but of course that doesn't mean my list is the end-all be-all. Not everyone will have the same list, and that's okay. I just think it's fun to talk about the history of the game. Okay, now let's get into the list. I'm going to start with 5 honorable mentions. That may seem like a lot, but there's been hundreds of talented top players to come and go over the years. So the first honorable mention is going to be T. His most notable placement probably being 3rd at Double Down, extremely consistent player both before and post-quarantine, and that to this day no one wants to see in their bracket path. You can find him in brackets all over the world, as he is one of the only top players to regularly travel to Europe, North America, and Japan to compete while still maintaining a high level of consistency. What holds him back from making the list for me is the lack of S-tier wins. Nonetheless, he still is worthy of being mentioned among the best to ever do it. Next honorable mention I have will be Dabuz. Picking out a best performance for him is difficult because originally it would probably be his 2nd place at the Big House 2019, but he just recently got 4th place at Kagaribi 10, which arguably is a tougher tournament and overall atmosphere in itself. Overall though, another player who's been very consistent both before and after quarantine and still improving with each year. Again though, he lacks those landmark S-tier wins that the top 10 have. The next honorable mention is going to be Meister. Most notable performances being a 2nd place at both Super Smash Con 2019 and Frostbite 2020. Definitely a higher peak pre-quarantine, but has by no means fell off post-quarantine, as he continues to prove he can hang with the very best in the world. And we're continuing with the trend of a player not having at least one S-tier win that many of his peers on this list have. And this holds true for Meister. Next honorable mention is going to be Nairo. Nairo is a player who was undoubtedly one of the best players pre-quarantine, reaching as high as 4th on the former PGR rankings. His best performance coming at Main Stage 2019, where he won the event. While Nairo would definitely have made the top 10 list pre-quarantine, the field has separated themselves by a sizable margin since then. Even still, his competitive career cannot go unmentioned, as he is still the most accomplished Palutena player the game has seen. And the last honorable mention I have is Shuton. He's won both EVO Japan and 2GG Prime Saga. Yet again, another extremely consistent player over the game's lifespan, always a threat to make a top 8 on the biggest stage. He's one of the very best Japan has to offer, but he just misses the cut for my list. And that rounds out the honorable mentions. This list was hard to make, and leaving these players off the top 10 was very difficult, but I think they all were missing a combination of either a staple S-tier win or consistency. And to make this list, you need either a bit of both or an extreme on one side or the other. Okay, let's finally dive into the top 10. At the 10th spot, I have none other than the original child prodigy, Zackray. I distinctly remember the narrative coming in Genesis 6 about this 16-year-old kid from Japan who plays on Pro Controller and will be the next Leo. The hype was real for Zackray, and he definitely delivered. Not only did he get 6th place at Genesis 6 in his North American debut, but he went on to dominate the rest of 2019, placing top 8 at EVO, Prime Saga, the first Ultimate Summit, and winning the Big House 9. After quarantine, he took his time coming back into competing, but he has still been able to put together some spectacular performances. Most recently getting 3rd place at Kagaribi 10, one of the most stacked tournaments of all time, with Pit no less. Only losing to the current 1 and 2 in the world, Spargo and Aquila. He's proven no matter what meta the game is in, he will always be a threat to win the bracket or at least take down some major names along the way. Some of his most impressive lifetime winning records include Tweak, Shuton, T, Dabuz, Mars, Cola, and Nairo. So far though, I can't place him any higher than 10th because of his lack of some key wins over the field. Zackray has losing records to MKLeo, Proto Banham, Light, Meister, Gluttony, and Spargo. Seeing as how much of these losing records are against other all-time competition, it definitely is a hit to his rankings on this list. But there is no doubt if he continues to play as well as he has recently, he has a great chance of climbing higher on my list. I really struggled with whether to place him above or below Shuton, but ultimately I think Zachary's overseas performances have been a bit more consistent. Granted, Shuton has been a lot more active post-quarantine, and I think that earns him a mention for some close contention with breaking into the top 10, where he had 2 absolutely insane performances, adding wins on Sonics, Dabuz, Glutonny twice, MKLeo, Acolyte, Big D, Spargo, and Mutes all to his resume. My rebuttal to those performances would be that Zachary rebounded with an impressive 3rd place at Kaguribi 10, as well as wins at Kaguribi 7 and 5, and 2nd at Kaguribi 4. So Zachary has the consistency in region as well as outside of it to secure the top 10 spot for me. At the number 9 spot, I have Proto Banham. Proto is no doubt one of the most polarizing players in Ultimate. He plays 5th at EVO, in which, spoiler alert, EVO is going to be a crowning achievement for a lot of these players, as to date it's still the most stacked tournament of all time with the most entrants. It also set a precedent for the rest of the game's history, so a top 8 there in my opinion is nearly equivalent to winning an S-tier event. In addition to that, Proto has also won Double Down 2022 and Summit 5, with another 3rd place at Summit 4. I call him polarizing because he's had some of the highest highs and lowest lows. At his peak, he's probably capable of beating everyone in the world 6 times out of 10. He's known to do very well outside of Japan, but in Japan tends to fall short of his capabilities. He has positive records against MKLeo, Light, Zachary, Shuton, T, Ken, Riddles, and Yoshidora. Historically, he's been one of the only players, if not the only player, to consistently beat MKLeo. So much so that we've seen Leo distraught mid-set as to how to beat him. That kind of summarizes him as a player. He's reached the pinnacle of Smash Ultimate on a few occasions, but has yet to prove he can do it consistently. When it comes to the difference between Proto and Zachary for me is the tournament wins though. We've seen Proto sit atop the mountain of international competition more times than Zachary has. And let's face it, Proto has left us after tournaments multiple times with the feeling that he might just be the best player in the world when he wants to be. I'm pretty comfortable with Proto's placement among the top 10 to ever do it. At number 8, I got a content creator who plays Smash on the side, Mars. In all seriousness, Mars is undoubtedly one of the all-time best players to play this game. His best performances being his win at Genesis 7, 2nd at CEO 2019, and 4th at Super Smash Con 2019. He has winning records against Light, Nairo, Meister, Samsora, Cosmos, Samba, MVD, and Wadi. As we get further into the list, I want to stress the importance of being ranked highly pre-quarantine. Mars was ranked both 3rd and 5th respectively on the PGR rankings. I value being ranked top 5 in the world at any point to be a great feat, and he accomplished this twice. Proto can't say the same, at least pre-quarantine. When I look at the weight of someone being top 5 in back-to-back seasons and still being relevant today, it's something I can't look past. Mars still has extremely solid placements post-quarantine, even if it isn't the top 5 player he used to be. His 7th place at Genesis 8 and a 9th place at Genesis 9, 4th at Summit 3, and a win at Lost Tech City 2022 keep his name relevant in the current meta. Nevertheless, there is no doubt that within a year's time, multiple of his peers could surpass him on my list, either due to their continued better success and or his own continued lack of wins. But the same can be said in reverse. Let's say he makes a breakthrough with his ZSS and makes another top 10 ranking. Who knows where he could end up when it's all said and done. Topping Genesis 8 and nearly doing it again a year later is proof enough to me that he can at least defend the legacy he's built thus far. We'll see if he can add to it in the future. At number 7, I have the King of Europe, Glutonny. That title may be in question at the current moment with the rise of Bloom Forever, but there's no doubt Glutonny is the most decorated European player in Ultimate's history. His best performances being his win at Pound 2022, his 3rd place at EVO 2019, and his 2nd place at Genesis 8. One crazy fact about Glutonny is that he hasn't placed lower than 17th in his entire offline career. His best winning records include Light, Zachary, Ken, Mutes, Kameme, Siski, Aaron, and Kurama. An argument can be made that over the entire course of the game, Glutonny has been the 2nd most consistent player ever, behind, of course, MKLeo. Tweak is on record saying Gluto is his favorite player to watch, and MKLeo has said that he's the best player in the world at adaptation. That's high praise, and it makes sense seeing as how he stuck to Wario for over 4 years of an always changing and evolving meta. He finds a way to stay consistent and still wins events. When comparing Glutonny and Mars, obviously I'm weighing more years at the top over slightly better performances for a shorter time. While Glutonny doesn't have a Genesis win on his resume, he for sure has a prolonged record of success. Coming in at number 6 is the greatest peach to ever do it, Samsora. Simply put, 2019 Samsora was one of the most dominant players the game has ever seen. He was ranked 4th and 2nd in the world respectively in the first 2 PGR seasons, with an S-tier win at Shine 2019 and multiple more S-tier top 8 finishes at Genesis 6, Momocon 2019, Smash Splash 5, Super Smash Con 2019, Smash Summit 2, EVO 2019, and Genesis 7. All those placements happen within a year, and that's about the crux of his career. Earlier, I mentioned how Gluttony never placed lower than 17th in his offline career. In Samsora's career, he's never placed lower than 13th. Samsora has a winning record on Gluttony, Proto Banham, Zackray, Dabuz, Cosmos, Void, Aaron, and Jackal. As I go along, I want to stress the significance of being ranked so highly. Where someone like Proto, for example, has more impressive head-to-head records and a few more impressive tournament wins, he's never been ranked higher than 10th, whereas Samsora has been ranked 2nd. With an all-time list, I'm really nitpicking at things, and it all comes down to what you value more, and I think rankings do hold the most overall weight. But besides that, Samsora has been active post-quarantine, most recently competing at Cirque du CFL, placing 7th, and even more impressive, taking Zamba to Game 5. I find this to be pretty relevant in that just over a month later, Zamba would go on to win Crown III from winner's side without dropping a set, beating Sonics, MKLeo, Tweak, and Jackal in the process. To take that guy to Game 5 proves that Samsora can still hang with the best of them should he be allowed to freely compete. Even still, I consider his competitive career to be among the greatest we've ever seen. Moving on to the top 5, and at 5 I have Akala. There might not be a single other player with as stainless a career as Akala so far. His best performances include first at the Invitational, first at Kaguribi 9, first at Smash Summit 6, and a second at Kaguribi 10 and Battle of VC 5 respectively. He's only been competing for about a year and a half, but in that time frame, he's been cooking just about everyone in the scene. He currently has winning records on Tweak, Light, Gluttony, Shuton, Dabuz, Mia, and Yoshidora. Probably the most pristine head-to-head spread we've seen thus far. Akala, in a way, is the antithesis of Samsora post-quarantine. Both very consistently dominant players with just over a year of competing to their name. In Akala's short time of competing, he's never placed lower than 9th. Some might say crowning Akala at 5th best all time is recency bias, but there aren't any other player on my list thus far that have reached best player in the world status or been between 1 and 2 for as long as Akala. Samsora, for instance, was never ranked number 1, and neither was Gluttony, or any of the other players. Samsora was ranked 2nd at one point, but so was Akala. And while there hasn't been a ranking system in 2023, Akala was no doubt at one point number 1 until Spargo surpassed him in May of this year. I'd pinpoint his time at number 1 being somewhere between his win at Summit 6 and Kaguribi 10, which isn't all that significant in hindsight, but as it stands currently, Spargo just had by his standards a pretty bad performance at Crown III, getting 9th, so an argument could be made that Akala is the best right now anyways. Regardless, he is by a large margin the player with the least blemishes on his resume of anyone to play this game. While it will by no means be an easy feat, but another 2 or 3 years with this level of dominance could potentially see him in contention for the best to ever do it. At the 4th spot, I have Light. Light is a player who from the get-go has been a consistent top talent. His best performances being a 7th at EVO 2019, 3rd at Genesis 9, 2nd at Summit 4, 2nd at Summit 5, and 1st at Super Smash Con Fall Fest. He's been ranked 4th on the North American PGR and 4th on Alt Rank 2022. As well as back-to-back 10th places on the pre-quarantine PGRU rankings. He has winning records on Tweak, Zackray, Dabuz, Sonics, Riddles, Cosmos, and Colo. Light has been placing in top 8s at Super Majors since the beginning of competitive Ultimate. Even still, he's the only player on this list besides Zackray to not have an S-tier win. In place of that, he has a bunch of really impressive losers runs and A-tier event wins. While slim, the difference between Akala and Light to me is that Light has more years being at top level and those years are quality. And someone like Samsora has both lack of years and never acquiring number 1 status, which is why I give the nod to Akala over Samsora, since at least Akala has been ranked 1 at least as a general consensus in the absence of a ranking system. Given another solid year of being top 2, and I could definitely have Akala surpassing Light. But until then, Light continues to have one of the most impressive resumes of anyone who competed through all 3 years of Ultimate. Moving into my top 3, which you've probably guessed by now, I got Spargo. His best performances are a 1st at Smash Summit 4, 1st at Collision 2022, 1st at Kaguribi 10, and 1st at Battle of BC 5. His best winning records include Tweak, Akala, Gluttony, Mars, Cosmos, Meister, and T. Now this is where it gets a little arbitrary, and I had to really do some mental gymnastics to understand how to justify Spargo being ahead of Light, but not Akala. Stick with me. Spargo has about a half extra year over Akala of being top 3 in the world. Spargo played in the latter half of 2021, and Akala started winning from the beginning of 2022. That amount of time for me, and I understand it may be grasping at straws, but for me, that separates the two. And somewhere in between that is where I put Light. For example, I think the gap between Spargo and Akala is big enough to where I can place Light above Akala. But these three, in my opinion, are the most volatile because every 6 months could have them interchanging placements. If Light were to reach, say, second in the world status by the end of the current season, I would definitely place him above Spargo. But let's say Aquila gets number 1 for back-to-back rankings. I'd put him right here at the 3rd spot. The way things are trending right now though, I think I'll still have Spargo here by the end of the current season. And to put the greater list into perspective, I placed Samsora at 6th all time for being ranked both 4th and 2nd for about a year of competing. Spargo, having 2 years under his belt, has accomplished similar to the same feats, being 3rd in the world and 2nd in North America respectively. That's a huge difference if you think about it. Let's assume Samsora was never banned and competed for the same length of time as, say, Tweak. He'd be placed right here at the 3rd spot, maybe number 2. So hopefully that logic of my list makes a little bit of sense with that framing. Anyhow, heading into my number 2 spot, you guessed it, Tweak. Tweak boasts an extremely impressive resume of tournament performances, being 1st at Frostbite 2019, 2nd at EVO 2019, 1st at Smash Summit 3, and 1st at Let's Make Big Moves 2023. His best positive records include Samsora, Gluttony, Mars, Proto-Banham, Shuton, Dabuz, and Cosmos. He's been ranked 2nd and 3rd on the PGR before quarantine, and 8th internationally and 5th in North America on the Ultimate rankings. The way I see it, there's a sizable gap between the 2 and 3 spot. Tweak's reign of dominance pre-quarantine is similar to that of Spargo now, except he's still in the mix as the top 3-1 player currently. To put it plainly, Tweak's never entered an Ultimate tournament and not been a threat to win it. Much of his career has been defined by whether he can take down whoever is currently the best in the world. Before quarantine, it was MKLeo, famously losing to him in the most nail-biting set ever at EVO 2019 Grand Finals. He would go on to lose to Leo in epic fashion several gut-wrenching times after that. However, post-quarantine he seems to have conquered his Leo demon, only for Spargo and Aquila to become the new adversaries to the throne. After so many years, the best in the world title continues to elude him, but nevertheless he has continuously reinvented himself. He is without a doubt the player with the best accolades across a variety of characters. In the early days, it was Wario. There was a time he was considered the best Wario player in the world over Gluttony. Then, he redefined the Pokemon trainer meta, reaching the same levels of success. The quarantine era saw him put many hours into his Diddy Kong, which proved to be his answer to MKLeo when in-person tournaments resumed. He also is one of only 2 players, Ken included, at the top level who regularly plays Sephiroth, with many believing Tweak to be the better of the 2. Only one other player can truly say they have been the best player of 4 different characters at any point in the game's lifespan. Tweak to me has felt like the protagonist of Ultimate. No disrespect to any of the other players on this list, including my number 1, but Tweak has been relentless, always changing and evolving with the meta. We've seen his ups and his downs through the many different character changes, through each and every version. It's always felt like for every big challenge the game is faced with, Tweak is there to take it head on, win or lose. At number 1, if it weren't already obvious by the topic of the video, I got Larry Lurr. Nah, it's MKLeo. Let's gas up Leo's wins, cause why not? 1st at EVO 2019, 1st at Genesis 6, 1st at Frostbite 2020, 1st at Genesis 8, and 1st at Genesis 9. When the most prestigious tournament series in Smash is considered your event, you gotta be special. Leo has a winning record on Tweak, Spargo, Light, Aquila, Samsora, Gluttony, Mars, and Zachary. That's everyone on this list except Proto-Banham, who is only down 2-3 on. He's been ranked 1st on the first 2 PGR ranking seasons, and 1st on the Ult Rank 2022 season, as well as 1st on the PGR-U North American rankings. To put it simply, he's the GOAT. You'll be hard-pressed to find 5 other players in any Smash title or fighting game for that matter with the same or greater dominance over the entire lifespan of a competitive game. Yes, Ultimate is still young in comparison to other titles, but that doesn't diminish the accomplishments Leo has. I mentioned earlier how the gap between Tweak and the field was substantial in my eyes. Well, the gap between Tweak and Leo is just as substantial. Over Leo's career, he's had many rivals. It started with Tweak, then for a time with Samsora. Post-quarantine, a number of players have been able to beat him, but he still can secure an S-tier tournament win on any given day. At one point in his career, he was so dominant that him losing a tournament was a big deal, and he would literally change the narrative of the characters he played. To this day, no one else has even top 8 at a major with Solo Joker, Byleth, or Ike. What else is there to say about him that hasn't already been said? His legacy is unmatched, and it might just stay that way. So that's my list. Let me know what you think. Hopefully my reasonings made sense. I really think I came up with an at least understandable list. Did I miss someone? Is someone too high or low? Leave your feedback in the comments, and I'm open to discussing points and answering any questions. I never see any all-time lists like this, but people are constantly making videos on who the current top 10 is. I think this is a severely unexplored topic. So yeah, let me know what you think, and thanks for watching.